And welcome back.
Thank you.
Just logistically, all of these calls, well, if you did say calls, I guess they were all on the phone.
They were all calls, yeah.
Okay, because he did see Fadon in Prague.
He saw
but it was
Fadon
the
on
day
Thursday. He then
before.
talked to Fadon and the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and Jordan on the plane on the way back on Friday. He talked to the foreign ministers, the prime minister of Qatar and the foreign minister of Egypt and foreign ministers of Egypt and UAE on Saturday, and then he talked to Benny Gantz and Yoav Gallant last night.
Okay, so nothing today yet.
Nothing today yet.
Okay, so where do things stand? I mean, I think you tried to make it very clear right now that everything rests with Hamas, but there seems to be a lot of friction, to say the least, inside the Israeli government about this. Are you confident that the Israelis have, in fact, signed off and are willing to go along with this?
We are completely confident. It was an Israeli proposal. Obviously, it was a proposal that they developed in consultation with the United States and Qatar and Egypt, the three countries that have played the mediating role throughout this process, but this was ultimately an Israeli proposal. In terms of where it stands, it was submitted to Hamas on Thursday night. We have yet to hear a response. We obviously saw the statement that they put out. I think it was on Friday, but we haven't gotten a response back from them. In terms of the inside the Israeli government, the president spoke to this in his remarks on Friday, where he said that fully anticipated that this would be controversial with some members of the Israeli government. And of course, we've seen some members of the Israeli government already come out and oppose it. In fact, opposed it over the weekend. But the case that he made and that we will continue to make is that this is a proposal that is in the long-term security interests of Israel. It's obviously in the long-term interests of the Palestinian people as well. But this is a chance to not just come to an end in to the conflict in Gaza and return the hostages home to their families, but help solve the conflict in the north of Israel, which is displacing tens of thousands of Israelis, and finally bring further integration with the region, which is in Israel's long-term security interests.
Okay, and then, but then on the other side, you make the case how it's great for Israel. What does Hamas get out of it? And I'm not asking because I think or that they should necessarily get something out of it,
Yeah.
But it's a negotiation, and there's always give and take and concessions. So, what are the selling points for Hamas? Do you think?
So let me talk about what the Palestinian people get out of it. I know that's not the exact question that you asked.
No, it's not. Because actually, I think it's a different question.
It is a different question, but
so can you answer the one that I asked?
I'm going to answer both of them.
All right.
So the Palestinian, because they ought to be the same. They ought to be the same answer, but it might not be. You're right. Palestinian people get an end to the conflict in Gaza, an immediate ceasefire. They get a surge of humanitarian assistance, 600 trucks a day. We are ready with international partners to begin the reconstruction of Gaza. Incredible bit. They get to return to their homes and their neighborhoods, and those who have lost their homes get the ability to start to rebuild those homes. Now, as it pertains to Hamas, look, if Sinwar decides that he's safe in a tunnel and this proposal isn't in his interest because he feels safe, that's an assessment he can make, but I think it is very clearly in the interest of the Palestinian people, and we would hope that given that this proposal is nearly identical to the one that Hamas submitted just several weeks ago, that they would not move the goalposts now and try to walk away from it.
Right. Well, but all right, I'll let that be. Last one.
No, I get where you're going, but look, I mean, I can't answer for Hamas, but Hamas,
I know.
I would just say Hamas claims that
answer,
represent the Palestinian people. This is manifestly in their interest. And given the fact that Hamas just a few weeks ago signed off on a virtually identical proposal.
But you just spoke to the points of why this would be wonderful for Israel, and there's the way you've approached this so far is that Hamas, the way a lot of people have approached, is that Hamas doesn't care about the Palestinian people; they only care about themselves. And so there are, in a sense, three parties to this: Israel, the Palestinian people, non-Hamas, and Hamas. So, but I think the answer to my question, which is what's in it for Hamas, is essentially nothing for them.
So again,
right?
So They claim to represent. I'm not trying to be cute.
I
They
get it.
claim to represent the
but-
interests of the
but
Palestinian people.
you don't believe that, and you've made it clear many, many times that you don't think that they do care about
Well, I
the
suppose
Palestinian
this
people, and they
proposal
don't.
puts. I suppose that this proposal puts that question very squarely.
But didn't
to
the
Hamas.
last one, and the one before that, and the one before
And
that?
given that this one is nearly identical to the one that
All right.
Hamas presented, I think it puts
Now,
it
my
even more
last
squarely
one,
in
I
the
want to
lap.
focus on this nearly identical. What does that mean? Because a lot of small changes, I've seen negotiations break down over the placement of punctuation marks,
Yeah.
commas, dashes. What do you mean nearly identical?
And that I can't get into in detail from here at the podium, but I will say if you look at the major elements of this proposal, they are nearly identical to the major elements of the proposal that Hamas submitted several weeks ago. There are some minor differences. There are differences that we think that can be bridged, and it's not just the United States thinks they can be bridged. There are differences that the other mediators, Egypt and Qatar, think can be bridged. I think actually Hamas. This is a serious enough proposal that Hamas should just accept it. But if there need to be further negotiations, we think those are all imminently bridgeable if, and this is the if Hamas wants a deal.
And are they nearly identical? Does that apply to what the Israelis submitted, or is this word for word what the Israelis submitted?
The proposal that went to Hamas, yeah, it is what the Israelis submitted.
Word for word.
Yeah, it is.
So in other words,
the
nearly identical does not apply to the Israeli.
That is a comparison between the Israeli proposal, which is what went to Hamas on Thursday, and the proposal that Hamas submitted several weeks ago.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe just follow